Hello everyone, welcome to The Green Man. Hope you're all good and well. So in this Friday's album review, I'm reviewing the latest release from the legendary extreme metal band Meshuggah and their latest album Immutable, which was released today on Atomic Fire Records. And the album is 13 tracks and 1 hour 7 minutes in length. Now, this is a band that if you're familiar with them, they probably don't really need any introduction. I mean, they're pretty much known for founding the whole gent sound, and they have produced some absolutely fantastic albums over the years, masterpieces like Obscene, Destroy Erase Improve and Chaos Sphere among them, and even the albums that are sometimes considered the weaker albums, perhaps you might say, like Contradictions Collapse, the debut album, and Kolos, are still absolutely great albums. And I personally loved their most recent album as well, Violent Sleep of Reason, from a few years back. Now, if anything, if I were to have any criticism of Immutable, it is that it is so very typically Meshuggah sounding. Meshuggah are a band who you can only really compare to Meshuggah and their previous material, because there's no real other bands for me that are really like them or that achieve the kind of status that Meshuggah have achieved. And if anything, that at times I just felt that they were verging on, if you're already a Meshuggah fan, I honestly think you might find at times that this album just gets a tiny bit predictable from time to time, but that's certainly not the case for the whole of the album, and there are still it's still a collection of really, perfectly off beats and explosive and groovy tracks on this album that as Meshuggah fans you will still really enjoy. I'm not even saying that this album is anything less than good. It's still a really, really solid and impressive Meshuggah album. It is just perhaps at times just so typically Meshuggah, which feels strange as a criticism, but it's perhaps the only thing I can say that is a weak point for me on this album, if there are any weak points to be said. So let's dig into some of the tracks now. Broken Cog opens up the album with, a heavy Meshuggah sound, as you expect, with the metronomic drumming of Thomas Harker very quickly on display. Light whispering vocals on this one from Jens Kidman at times, which I quite liked. And you have those kind of high lead guitar notes on this, like you kind of get in Obscene, I think, on some of those songs as well, which just create that eerie atmosphere for this opening track. Phantoms, I loved that riff on Phantoms, thought it was absolutely fantastic, and the little variations they did on it as well. Phantoms probably is one of the favourites for me on this album. Ligature Marks gave us a track which I thought had a similarity to Born in Dissonance and Violent Sleep of Reason, so I really liked that one because I loved Born in Dissonance from Violent Sleep of Reason. God He Sees in Mirrors gave us some classic Frederick Thorndahl style, his odd lead guitar solos that he has, and I love the quick transition on this track at the end where it goes into from heavy stuff into the echoey guitar bit at the very end of the track, which was really good as well. They Move Below starts with some lighter passages at the start, I think, before it transitions into the good old chugging Meshuggah-ness, but actually for me this track went on too long, and it didn't offer much that felt new to me, and this is where my attention on the album did start to waver a bit, and it took the fantastic kaleidoscope to bring me back round into this album to think, yeah, this is more like it, and we're getting back to that pulsating Meshuggah-ness that I really enjoy. I also really loved Armies of the Preposterous towards the end of this album, which was a killer track from Meshuggah. And if I was to do a Meshuggah top 10 songs, you could expect to see Army of the Preposterous on that top 10. That was that good for me. So in conclusion, I also just quite liked the closing track and its sort of oddly clean and deep guitar harmonies I thought we got on that track, although it was perhaps an odd track to have at the very end of the album to close things off, but still pretty good stuff. So anyway, where do we get to with an overall score from me for this album? And in spite of that, the slight criticism I gave at the very beginning of the review, saying it is typically Meshuggah, that still means it's a really good album. And so for me, for this Meshuggah album, Immutable, if you're a Meshuggah fan, or you're new to Meshuggah and discovering this stuff, I also think this is probably a pretty cool album as well. This is getting an 8 out of 10 from me today. Feel free to drop your own thoughts on this album, how you think it compares to the rest of Meshuggah's discography. Where would you rank this even in amongst their great albums too? Otherwise, from me, don't forget, tomorrow night I'm premiering my top 20 albums of 2018. And from me, take care everybody, have good evenings, bye for now.